1. Anyone else have that guest you dread every time their name comes up in the system? I've only been working at my hotel a few months, but one of our regulars who stays with us at least once a week makes my anxiety spike whenever his check-in day comes around. And of course, since I'm our regular 3 to 11 person, I'm usually the one to deal with him unless I'm mercifully off that day. The first time I met him, I followed policy and asked for an ID and credit card. Right off the bat, he starts complaining how he's here every week, and he's never been asked for either of those before, and they know me here, I don't need to show you anything. Now, I'm fine dealing with confrontation, but this guy gets mad. Enough that I thought he was about to start throwing things at me. I explained to him that regardless if everyone else knows him or not, I've never seen him before, and I'm just following policy. It took a bit of arguing, but he did finally show me his ID, but did that thing toddlers do when they're forced to show you something they're hiding, by just holding it up in his hands and not actually passing it to me, which is whatever. As long as I can read the information on it, I'm fine with that. Then the credit card. He was adamant that he never has it on him, that he doesn't have it with him now, and that it's never been a problem before. I told him I need to match the name on the card with his ID, but he flat out refused to show it. A little sketchy if you ask me, but at this point, I just want to be done with him, so I tell him that I'll allow it this time, but for his future stays we will need to see the actual card. He rolled his eyes, and while didn't agree, I did my job and made sure he understood that this would not be the last time he would be asked for it. Lo and behold, yesterday, I see his name on my list of arrivals and pull up his reservation to block him into his room. And wouldn't you know it, there's no credit card attached to this reservation. Knowing how much of a fight it's going to be to get one, I call my GM, who is thankfully in his office most days. I had told him about the first time I had met him, and what happened already, so he understood how much I didn't want to have another fight with this guy. I haven't had to deal with him the last few weeks he's come in. As our schedule changes so much, I just happen to be off on his arrival dates. So I have no clue if anyone else has asked him for his information. So I asked our GM if there was any way to get his credit card number from somewhere else in the system. My GM looks into it, and turns out the guest has never filled out a credit card authorization form. So we should have been asking him for his card every time he's come in anyway. And it doesn't look like he's sent us the actual card number anywhere, so his last couple dozen reservations must have been done by the guest himself. So this means I need to ask him for the card. I spend my whole shift dreading having to see him, and thankfully he didn't show up until after I had left and the night audit got there. Our poor night auditor had the pleasure of checking him in before, and knew how angry he gets, so she wasn't too thrilled about it. Since our GM told us we would need the physical card, she knew she would have to ask him for it. We got a credit card authorization form printed out and ready for him, so that we would have a copy of the card on file and no one else would have to fight with him for it. And I leave for the night. I only know what happened because of our pass-along email, but evidently he didn't have the card with him again when he showed up, and started accusing our night auditor of purposely deleting it. She tried explaining that no, it just wasn't attached to his reservation, and if he didn't have that specific card, she would be more than happy accepting a different card, or even let him use cash or debit, which we were told to never do, but this guy is so much of a jerk that she was willing to break policy to pacify him. The guest starts threatening her, saying how she better remember him because he's really angry now. That would have been an immediate DNR if it was me, but she wasn't sure if she was allowed as he was a regular. I'm in again tonight, and we will be asking our GM to either speak with the guest about his behavior or help him find a different hotel for his next few stays. Because we should not be threatened for doing our jobs. Our GM is a really nice guy, and he's always had our backs, so hopefully he does stick up for us. But I've learned to not expect much in this industry. Anyway, not very exciting, I know, but I wanted to get other perspectives on this. It's policy in most hotels to ask for ID and a credit card, right? Some people act like they've never been asked in their life, even if they've supposedly stayed in hotels more nights out of the year than not. Update. My manager ended up apologizing to the guest this morning for his inconvenience and awarded him like $50 in points through our loyalty system. The upside is she gave him a credit card authorization form to fill out and send back to us, so we, hopefully, never have to have this sort of interaction with the guest again. Downside, guest is going to continue acting the way he's been acting if he doesn't get his way. 2. I worked a pretty small casino hotel, less than 100 rooms. Most of our guests come for the entertainment, but we also have contracts with a lot of companies that have their workers stay with us because in our small city, our hotel is the newest and cleanest, best quality for your money. One of the companies that we have a contract with has a few people with us that have been coming here on and off since before I started 2 years ago. We never had any issues with any of these men. They've been kind and respectful to the staff, and we had no problems with them at all. There was a 4 or so month break where none of the company was there, but last week, 4 or 5 guys were checking in the same day. All names I recognized as people who I have seen in our system who have stayed before, with this one man being the person I had seen the most out of all of them. I tend to remember names, but have never met most of the people because I work at night. But the main guy I had met before to extend his room or to check him out. Again, this man was always nice to us and never seemed off at all. Something had changed in the last few months because John completely flipped like a light switch. His second day here, we started having some problems with a couple of our door handles. There were 2 doors on the same floor that you could not fully stick the key into. It would be stopped by a foreign object inside, meaning the door could not be opened at all, and the room cannot be sold. They had looked at the cameras and were shocked to see John had put something inside one of the key slots on these doors. They were both rooms on his floor, but at the other end from where his room was. He was seen walking towards our front desk area from his room 2 separate times, putting what we would later find out was a nickel and a quarter inside of the key slots. Our maintenance guy is pretty good, but there was no way to fix this. He had to break into the rooms by force, breaking both of the door handles completely to be able to open the door and remove the now broken door handle. I'm sure these things are not cheap and it took a while, so on our busiest day, a Saturday, we had 2 rooms we could not safely sell in time because we had to finish fixing everything after having to break the door. He had been in the house for a day and a half when the first incident occurred, and the second later that same night. My highest up manager was so baffled by this sudden change and was concerned, so he emailed the video to John's boss and explained what happened. He also told him that they had found that he was smoking in the room, and he would have to charge him the $250 fee and also charge for the 2 doors he damaged. After finding this stuff out, our managers talked to every shift about it. All of us reported that we had no phone calls or issues reported to us, except 1 shift a day after. He came down after the initial email to his boss to try and extend his stay, but the front desk refused because we were told not to allow it. He screamed at them for about 10 minutes about how he doesn't deserve to be treated like this. He tried a second time on a different shift to extend it again, and he was denied then as well, but left more neutrally that time. I didn't find out more until 2 days after all this, but the boss responded to my manager apologetically, replying to us that John says he already came up to apologize to the front desk ladies, and they said everything was okay and he is allowed to keep staying here. The times he came to extend and got mad at the supervisors that denied him were the only interactions anyone had. He did not ever apologize, so our manager told his boss that he lied about that, and he screamed at our staff, and that will not be tolerated. Once his reserve stay was ended, he was told he is not allowed back and must find another place to stay. The other men with the company are still permitted to stay. None of them have done anything like this. They also told him that maybe after the first of the year they can do a short trial stay, if he takes some time away to think about what he did and why he felt he needed to do that. I heard that he may have a drinking problem that has gotten worse recently. This is not the first time we have seen a worker totally flip like this and start causing a lot of problems. Hopefully the time away on his own will help him. I just hope if he does come back, he doesn't act like that towards us again. We all work real hard here and do our best to take care of all our guests and resolve all issues. I don't know why anyone would want to do something like that. 3. For a time, I was stressed by guest treatment, but I've since found ways to work through that and handle my job much better. Things have been really great, but I've been having an ongoing issue with the breakfast attendants. Yes, plural, I'll get to that in a minute. And I'd like to share my story with you all and see if you have any helpful feedback, because I'm at a loss here. Alright, so let's backtrack a little bit and go to March. We hired a new breakfast attendant, Titania. Titania was the type who acted nice, but used her anxiety as a crutch for everything. She always looked like she was crying. She would come into the office every morning complaining about workers and her job in general. Mind you, I'm a night auditor, so I had to deal with her every single morning, and I got very burnt out from her complaining very quickly. I did my job the way I needed to. I would get food started in the oven, get the oatmeal started, and make sure all the coffee was out. Titania would say things to my managers like, "The night auditor was so mean to me this morning and she's not doing her job." And because she's like 45 and I'm only 30, my manager sided with her and labeled me as toxic. She'd say, "I hate when people don't like me. It makes me feel really stressed," to my boss. I kept to myself and barely even said as much as hi to her at this point, because she made me so uncomfortable with the lies. I was just trying to do my job. She would later go down to 1 new a week, and we hired Kyla, a new attendant, who was also around 45 years old. Kyla seemed so nice at first, and I went above and beyond for her. It wasn't until 2 weeks ago when she started coming in every morning reprimanding me for not doing my job right and victimizing herself to me for attention. Kyla and Titania got very close, pretty much besties. Kyla started asking me things like, "Why can't you do your job right? Why do I always have to help you?" I was blown away by this because I thought I did more than I was supposed to for her. I went to my manager about this altercation, and they asked me why I have a problem with every breakfast person. Later that day, I told them in a group message that I wasn't coming in today due to a lack of support from management in this situation. I've never done something like this before. Can you tell I'm fed up? My GM calls me asking what's going on, so I tell her everything and explain that my AGM isn't listening. I ask if we can have a breakfast checklist because I'm doing everything right, but Kyla doesn't seem to understand her job duties. Again, I worked breakfast before I was in audit, so I know exactly what breakfast entails for the attendant. Everything seemed like it went well, but I come in the next night to a checklist where I actually have more breakfast duties than Kyla. Now I do have to set out the food. I was upset because they're clearly siding with her and I didn't say a word and started doing exactly what was on my list. This happened a week ago. It's now 1 week later and I'm in the kitchen setting out the food and bringing the last dispenser of coffee out to the bar. It's 5:30 a.m. on the dot. Apparently Kyla was calling from the vestibule, but I didn't hear the phone when I was in the kitchen. Total accident. I see her at the door and let her in. She maybe stood there for about 3 minutes max. She is always 5 to 10 minutes late, so I never know when she's coming in. She comes up to me, fake crying, saying in a whiny voice, "Why wouldn't you let me in? Why don't you like me?" And I'm like, "Kyla, I'm sorry, I was setting up breakfast. I didn't hear the phone." "But you know what time I get here. Why didn't you do your job earlier?" Then I catch her out on her laptop in the lobby in front of all the guests, and when my relief came in, she hurried and put it away. I feel like this is a mean girl situation because Titania and Kyla are close. Titania made Kyla think I'm this mean, toxic person to her, so she's now trying to get me to quit. The big problem here is I've never done anything to be mean. I just kept to myself and wasn't interested in conversations with her, because she's always complaining about everyone or victimizing herself. Guys, what can I do? This is so childish and stressful, and no matter what I do, I'm backed into a corner. I've been looking for other jobs to have some kind of plan, but I like my job and just want peace. Having a conversation with her is useless, no matter how I approach her. Is this a lost cause? A while later, they both come into the office, right when I was about to clock out, pretending like nothing was wrong. Waited until I said, "Okay, I'm gonna clock out," and then before I could, they were happily like, "Come here," and made me come into the office. Mind you, I have to share a vehicle with someone and they needed that vehicle by 8 to get to work. They told me they thought the problem was nobody did anything for me for breakfast, so why should I do anything for her? I explained it was actually the treatment I'm receiving more than the extra duties. But the extra duties are a pain for us to be doing. I said I wasn't happy here anymore because of all this. They said it's implementing duties from the owner because the owner says night audits don't do anything. They called the attendant in, and the attendant claimed she has no idea what offended me and that she was joking, not crying. I'm like, girl, are you sure that's what happened? Because I know for a fact it is not. She started stuttering and got all quiet and doubled down saying it was a joke. Bosses asked if we could just get along. Yeah, whatever. But the fact that they came in with me completely unprepared right before I had to leave, I was on 2 hours of sleep. That was messed up. I am out. 4. Buckle up, because this has been a hell of an experience for me, and I'm on the verge of a mental breakdown. So here we go. My one rule was that I would never work in a hotel again. Unfortunately, in recent times, with the economy being what it is, I've had to compromise on my aforementioned one rule, bite the bullet, and once again join the ranks of my hospitality brats everywhere. So here we go. Picture this. A human down on their luck decides to apply to a franchise location of a popular American brand hotel. Given my apprehensions, I decide to clear my mind before the interview, which brings us to our first chapter, the interview. As I sat across from the man interviewing me, everything ran smoothly, and I felt that sense of comfort and relaxation wash over me as I thought to myself, the other shoe was certainly about to drop. It did, of course, drop, as the manager said, "I've just been looking to hire more men, you know." Why, no, I don't know, as I thought to myself, please don't elaborate. They certainly did. Women, apparently, bring too much drama into the workplace. They then believe they run the place. They then ask for time off, and men just get the job done, you know? As I quickly redirected the conversation forward, I doubt that it's likely a lack of experience and first job this isn't exclusive to women. I thought to myself, strike one, and you should have kept to the rule. Each day since that interview, more and more misogynistic nonsense has sprung forth from said manager's mouth, like an onslaught of verbal diarrhea. Chapter 2. The Job. My training and day-to-day. 1. Typical front desk work, check-ins, check-outs, reservations, standard typical stuff, easy peasy. 2. Cleaning and maintaining the lobby's entrance, absolutely nifty. I can get on board with a clean workspace and environment. 3. Cleaning the bathrooms. Again, perfectly happy to. As a veteran in the service industry, people use bathrooms, and someone has to clean them. 4. Make sure to wipe the water fountain and the rest of the lobby with the same sanitizing cloth as you just did the toilets with. Whoa. Slow down there, buddy. This doesn't feel compliant with modern sanitary standards. 5. Mop the floors. What wet floor sign? We don't need that. Remember to be extra rude to the visitors when they need to walk on the floors. Wait for them to leave. Call them a rude name when they do so, or dribble a small amount of coffee on the floor. 6. Let's go do some laundry. Did I say some? No. I meant all. Is it covered in shit, piss, blood, semen, or some other sort of medieval humor? That's fine. We've streamlined the process so that housekeeping can just drop it off, so they can be out before we have to pay them anymore and offer them a break. And front desk can do it all. Every last weirdly moist bedsheet. Gloves? Why would you need gloves? Your front desk. What does PPE mean? No, we don't have hand sanitizer. 7. What's an MSDS sheet? 8. No, we don't do breaks here, and you're not allowed to leave the property. What do you mean compliance? Anyway, me and the housekeeping staff will be out about 20 minutes of every hour smoking. If you need us, give us a holler. 9. Remember not to use the restroom and use paper towels when you wash your hands, or I'll be passive-aggressive. 10. Informed by another concerned employee, The girls and I think that because of the way you dress and hold yourself, standing up straight, you're one of those homosexuals. We have strong opinions about this. 11. Manager. I have a really bad temper and tend to blow up in people's faces. Employees. Your predecessor quit because he kept calling her fucking stupid and other rude names. In closing, I have been floating resumes and applying elsewhere since day one. I have no respect for this man, or his place of business to stick around if he begins angry tirades. Please, anyone, tell me that this is as much of a clusterfuck as it sounds. Sincerely, the undercover homosexual at the front desk. 5. We get a lot of school groups coming through on trips at our hotel. We're in a larger city in our state, and high school sports teams from more remote areas would often stay at our hotel to attend local tournaments. Every large group with kids has its share of issues, but we had ranks on what caused the most trouble. Religious-based private schools topped the list. But on the plus side, it was like our own real-life telenovela because American soap operas are boring compared to their Latin American counterparts. I had only been at the hotel a few months when this happened. I started in July and this was September, and had yet to have anything other than a band have a hotel room that they simply used for storage. Typically, bands will get a room for their equipment so that it isn't sitting on the tour bus, risking getting stolen or struck by lightning. That's another story. I didn't think anything of it when the priest who was accompanying the school's football team mentioned that they didn't have names for one room, that it was needed for storage. No biggie, right? But he needed 18 keys for the room. Storage rooms you typically want to keep secure, so only 1 or 2 people have access. Nope. The staff, coaches, parents accompanying the trip all needed keys to the room. Oh, and the storage room needed to please be away from their block of rooms, asked so very politely too. I looked over to my assistant manager who was checking in another guest, and she had the biggest smile on her face as she nodded to me that it was okay. I felt like I was being set up. 18 room keys later, on top of all the other room key packets handed out, and they are all off to their rooms. The storage room is on the 3rd floor, near the lobby elevator. The block of rooms is 2 sides over on the 1st floor because, like hell, we're giving teen football players a reason to go up the elevators. The hotel was a pentagonish shape, with convention halls on one length, lobby, restaurant, and bar on the other length, and then 3 lengths with guest rooms. But another point to this is that the hotel rooms that are being occupied would not generally use the lobby doors, but the convention or back entrance. It was a busy evening, more because of the restaurant and bar patrons, not so much check-ins, and I had mostly written off the 18 keys thing until it slowed down and my assistant manager came back from her break with popcorn, M&Ms, and a spiral notebook, and the biggest grin I'd ever seen on her. I asked what the snacks were for, and she said that she was staying late to give our night auditor a chance to work in the back instead of the front because it was going to be a crazy night, and asked me to stay late with her. At this point, most of our reservations, sans the airline crews, had checked in for the night, so I told her I didn't think it would be busy. No, not busy. Crazy. And then she told me I should really stay and that it would be fun. I reply with, Vanessa, there has been no time in working here that crazy also meant fun. Plus I work in the morning. She offered to have Chinese delivered for a late dinner for us instead of our typical sandwich and salad from the kitchen if I stayed. And because we had few checkouts the next day, I could come in a couple of hours late. I was young and easily food-motivated, plus a night owl that hated being at work at 8 a.m., so stay I did. I have never regretted it. Soon the word spread that the school was checked in, and pretty much all long-time staff working that evening came by the desk and put money in a pool, and Vanessa marked down their bet and took their money. The night manager for the evening used the phone at the desk to call one of his sales manager friends, and placed a bet for her, since she wouldn't be in until the day they left. The bet was for how many condoms housekeeping would find in the storage room over the course of the 3 nights the team was here. The lights out for the team was 9:30 p.m. At 10 p.m., one of the higher-end escorts came through the lobby doors, said hi to Vanessa, and I got introduced to Tanya. I'd see Tanya again many times over my tenure at the hotel. We didn't have valet parking, but many a time did she hand the keys to her Porsche to park for her, along with a big tip. She left about 11 p.m., and what seemed to be another escort, but a little more addicted-looking, if you get what I mean, sauntered in and down the same direction. Our emergency light lit up on the PBX a couple minutes later. 2 parents from the football group got stuck in elevator 3, i.e. they pushed the emergency stop button. Vanessa said they always forget that when they push the emergency button it actually calls 911, and we get tapped into that line as well. They claim they are fine, the elevator is just stuck, but we don't need to rush to fix it. We cleared with dispatch that things are under control, and they don't send anyone. Maintenance resets the elevator in about 15 minutes. That late we only had one maintenance guy, and he was on the other side of the hotel in a convention hall. He reports that we need to send one of the overnight housekeepers to the elevator because it was humid. Shortly after, we get a few noise complaints about people arguing in the hallway near the lobby elevator. And while we are on the phone, the reason for the noise complaints come barreling out of the lobby elevator in a full-on fistfight. Security typically hangs out near the bar, so we buzzed the bar to send them out. I asked if we should call the cops, and Vanessa said not to worry about it, and casually kept popping alternating popcorn and M&Ms into her mouth. Our 6'6" security bear, he was huge, total sweetie though, but could intimidate anyone with a side eye, came and broke up the 2 guys while we now had addicted escort looking on demanding the rest of her pay, and a call from another room claiming a woman was sprinting down the hallway holding her clothes, not wearing them. We pieced together that it was a threesome with the escort, but the couple that invited her were not an official couple. The guy was one of the coaches. And the woman sprinting down the hall was married to the guy who was not part of that hour's activities. Apparently, he was scheduled to use the room at midnight and didn't realize his wife was there at 11 p.m. The commotion attracts the attention of the people in the bar, and the husband looks to one woman and screams, "She was supposed to be with you!" The woman is drunk enough to be at the cut-off point, walks between the men, one of which is still being held back by security, and without missing a beat proclaims, "If God wills a dicking, amen," and walks toward convention, the quickest way out of their block of rooms, leaving the men too stunned to continue yelling at each other and the rest of the onlookers perplexed. They went back to their rooms quietly, and miraculously no visible blood on the floor. One probably had a broken nose. Security Bear came up and told us that if the room had more issues tonight, we needed to cut the keycard access till morning. Right at this moment, 2 women in the tallest heels I've ever seen in real life walk into the lobby. Security Bear makes eye contact with them, and one goes, "Oh shit," and they both scurry off. PBX emergency light comes on again. This time a guest not related to the football group is calling 911 instead of the front desk or security, because it is after midnight, and she is seeing people crawling across the courtyard walls. Guess the teens thought it was late enough that their chaperones would be asleep, and that as long as they didn't go out the door of their room, no one would catch them. They crawled out of the windows and were scaling the ledges from window to window on our inner courtyard. Dispatch sends the fire department because they're climbing up part of the building we don't have easy roof access to. The teens get caught, refuse to give up the rest, who all ducked back into their rooms and feigned sleep. We only had a couple of rooms call about the ladder truck in our parking lot, about 1 a.m. by now. They didn't end up needing the ladder, and it must have been a slow night for them, because they stayed to chat with us for a bit. I'm getting tired, and it's already a couple hours past my shift end. Vanessa is a little disappointed by the night's activities thus far, as if she expected more. I'm about to tell her I'm going to the back to clock out when we hear a commotion coming from the stairwell near the elevator. A tall, lanky man in a navy blue hoodie that is pulled so tight over his face that it looks like a giant cat butthole slams open the stairwell door and, oddly, High Step sprints through the lobby and down convention. So it is Vanessa and I behind the desk, leaning on it with two firefighters leaning on the front and chatting with us, and the older guest service guy just walking in from picking up a late flight crew, and this guy runs through. There were no clothes other than the hide-my-face hoodie and a whooping sound he was making that sounded like Zoidberg from Futurama. Whoop, 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 whoop. We were all deadpan. Seriously, the circular bounce of the male anatomy on the guy as he high-step sprinted away, combined with the sound he made. We were too stunned to make a sound. The pilot of the flight crew spoke up first, and I'll never forget his quip. "I think somebody needs to tell Mr. Tire Drill that only airline flight crews stay here, not helicopter pilots." That was it. We lost it. My abs hurt. I was laughing so hard, and one of the firefighters was on the floor hunched over laughing. His sprint really did look like a football player running through tires. Vanessa proclaimed she had to pee. She was laughing so hard and climbed over the desk instead of walking the long way round. She then hopped the ledge into the dining area for the restaurant, sunken dining area. It was very popular style when the hotel was built in the 70s, and it had closed at 9 p.m. for a clear path to the staff restrooms, and landed on a couple who had apparently found this one tiny spot in the dining area that if you laid down no one could see from the bar entrance, front desk or lobby doors, who were mostly clothed but intimately attached, if you know what I mean. They had to have had practice keeping that quiet. They yelp. Vanessa launches into a table but catches herself. The couple stand up and make eye contact with security, and they scurry off down convention. Vanessa is laughing hysterically, crying. She is laughing so hard but won't move. Flight crew is cracking up too, and one of the crew asks if she needs help, and she waves her off. I hand the crew their packets, and the firefighters, still laughing, excuse themselves. Now Vanessa is still crying, but her top half is slumped over the table. Security Bear approaches her as the night manager comes down the hall from convention, shaking his head. He sees Vanessa and starts over toward her too, when Security Bear tells him, kind of forcefully, to go talk to me instead. He walks Vanessa into the back of the house doors behind the restaurant. She is still crying. At this point, I think she hurt her ankle or knee landing on them. Night manager asks if I'm okay. I ask him if he caught. I try to spit out the name the pilot gave him, Mr. Tire Drill, but kept cracking up trying to say it. He shook his head and said, "If I catch it, I have to touch it. No thanks." Vanessa comes back a little later wearing baggy banquet pants. Remember the popcorn and M&Ms? That crap makes you thirsty. She had 2 empty big gulps behind the desk. When she hit the couple, when she jumped the ledge, her bladder was a little too full and, well, a puddle was left. She said when she looked back after they left, she could see a trail, and was absolutely certain she had peed on them as well. Security Bear had her back so the night manager wouldn't know, but she passed me the betting pool just in case she got fired for peeing on customers. She didn't, and we told housekeeping the wet carpet was from the canoodling couple. She swore me to secrecy and bought me Chinese food on my evening shifts with her for a couple of weeks. 20+ years later, I think I kept the promise well enough. And where was our night auditor in all of this? Sitting in the back, headphones on, a deafening volume, 100% oblivious to everything going on 20 feet and 2 walls away. She had been through this grip before and wanted no part of it. A few more or less eventful calls, and it was riding on almost 4 a.m., and if I was on time, my next shift was 8 a.m. I asked Vanessa if I can just crash out in the service room, one we tended to keep aside because, between weather and strange events, someone would generally get stuck at the hotel with too little time between shifts, so we would keep a room with minor damage off the rolls to use for staff. She said sure, and gave me the keycard from the drawer. I asked the room number. It was my first time staying in the time I'd been working there. She smirked. Storage room was 301. Out of service room was 302. The door directly across the hall. I didn't live too far from the hotel, and she said I could come in at 10 a.m. regardless. So I debated what to do. Which did I want more, sleep or gossip? I'm not ashamed to say gossip won. I'm not ashamed to say that I camped that peephole on the door to room 302, looking right at 301, every time I heard a peep. There was just one couple in 2 hours, kinda boring. Until about 5:30 a.m. when the priest came to the room, knocked on the door before opening it, and called a question of, "All clear?" before turning off the light just inside the room and leaving. My 19-year-old mind was racing. Did the priest know? Did he set this up? Aren't they supposed to be anti-fornication? Wait. The priest was kind of tall and skinny, and really red hair. I called down to the desk and Vanessa, starting to sound groggy, picked up. I yelled into the receiver, "What color hair was Mr. Tire Drill?" "I didn't look so close, why?" And I explained what I just saw with the priest. "Flight crew goes back to the airport at 10:30 a.m. You better be the one checking them out. They would have gotten the best look." I laid down but didn't sleep. Just before 10 a.m., I tidied myself up and went to clock in, begging the breakfast manager for a couple of energy drinks in return for the night's gossip later. Really, this place lived on gossip. It kept us going. I intercepted the flight crew as I got to guest services for the shuttle, who were totally surprised to see the gal who they saw last night working in the morning. Their concern was sweet, but I was on a mission, I told them. I think I might know who it was. What color was his hair? Not even a second or two pause, and two of the four reply in unison, "Red." I thanked them profusely, and they said to fill them in next week when they returned. I kept my promise and did. VP came out, and I must have looked like I had raided a candy shop because he wanted to know what was so funny. In a genuine way, not a you-might-be-in-trouble way. The other gal at the desk, Gretchen, an older German lady, Vanessa must have filled her in somewhat because she was behind the VP doing the hand slicing the neck motion to not tell. And I said that there were some drunk idiots leaving the bar when the flight crew came in last night, and the pilot made some good jokes. But they were a little racy and I didn't want to repeat them. He chuckled and accepted my answer. Gretchen explained he was already peeved because of the dispatch reports he got this morning. Whenever someone at the hotel calls 911, or we call dispatch, or they call us, it printed out a report, and to let us keep having our fun. And she told me Vanessa said I was to clock out by 2:30 p.m., so I didn't end up with overtime for our head manager to scrutinize when she got back from vacation. That morning was uneventful, and I was off for the next 2 days, but I did get a final count, and no, I didn't win the pot. It ended up being about $300. 55. No, I didn't know how the housekeeping manager counted. She was the only one we'd let in a room like that. And I didn't want to know either. But I'm assuming it was partially the reason she kept kitchen tongs on her personal cart. There were other tallies Vanessa kept count of as well that I don't recall, like how many known escorts came in towards that room, calls to 911, how many people getting it on in public spaces. One thing she and the rest of the desk gals did keep an eye out for. The only tall, skinny redhead they ever saw in the group was the priest. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Coahw, episode 100. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Please hit the like button before you go, and since this is a hotel video, ring that notification bell to make sure you're getting notifications. Alrighty, I think we have a little birthday shout out to give today. Yes, and today's birthday shout out goes to Kelly, who is 53 years old today. A big happy birthday to you, Kelly. I do remember from last year's message that you're a fan of Company. I will not still legally be able to sing the entire score as requested, but of course a very happy birthday and a little bit of a sing-song is certainly in order. So here we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kelly. Happy birthday to you. and hope you have a very good time and make sure you celebrate it thoroughly. We are, of course, letting November birthdays celebrate all the way through to January, since I've appointed myself the arbiter of that sort of thing. I should probably get a hat. Anyway, let's move on to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is... Okay, self-service stores, entirely self-service, the kind of thing Amazon's apparently been trialing. Is that something you would prefer, or neutral on, or you absolutely hate the idea? Personally, I'm not sure how they're going to avoid shoplifting in a place like that, but as long as they're open like 24 hours, no reason for them not to be, right? There's no staff, as far as I know. Maybe there is. Maybe there's a security guard or something. But, it'd be good for me because, if there's an actual proper store, you can buy groceries open 24 hours, because we don't have any locally. There's gas stations. There's like a Marks and Spencer's and a gas station locally, and that food is nice, but you can't do a full shop in there because it's a small shop. It's not like a full Marks and Spencer's. So I'm certainly curious as to what automated shops would be like and how they would work. I don't know if they could work long term. It sounds like a very unusual idea to me. Of course, that being said, I'm totally and fully in favor of automating driving and things, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. And let me know what you think. Please pop your answers in a comment below. And I'm going to head off. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.